Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone is having a great start to the weekend out there so far. We got many things to talk about in tonight's video, and the first thing we'll go over is the latest on this winter storm that will begin to move in as early as tomorrow across areas of the plains. So we'll discuss watches and warnings, who has winter storm warnings, who has winter storm watches, winter weather advisories as of this evening. We'll speak on that. And then we'll get detailed as far as the evolution, timing, and just when this winter storm, this snow and ice will move into individual states. We'll kind of zoom into the central U.S. and then to the eastern U.S. And then we'll dive really deep. I mean, we're going to get super detailed as far as individual areas and states on how much snow and ice the National Weather Service, the experts, are forecasting for your area. And luckily, we have, for the majority of these graphics, the latest information. So this is going to change. We're going to get some tweaks one way or the other. It's probably even changed for some areas since this morning if you tune into this morning's video. But we're going to give you all these fancy graphics. It's going to show town and city names on these graphics for you folks, and we'll get you covered there. After we get done discussing that, we will give you the latest information on winter weather chances for the South next week. And we'll start off by discussing the South Central U.S., then we'll move to the Southeast, and we'll compare model guidance. And then at the very end of the video, we will break down, I guess, what we need and what we don't need for winter weather to happen next week for the South. And then I'll kind of round it off by giving you some information from the Climate Prediction Center. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Really appreciate the support lately, guys. The channel has grown a ton. You know, I hit 90,000 subscribers Monday, which feels like it was like 2 weeks ago. It's crazy. I guess quite literally it was last year, right? I hit 90,000 subscribers. Now I'm at like almost 92. So pretty wild stuff. So thanks for all the growth. And hey to all the new viewers and subscribers. Let's get going here, though. All right, so this is the latest from watches, warnings, things like that. If you live in the pink, that's winter storm warnings. If you live in the shade of purple, that's winter weather advisory. So, and I don't want to ignore you folks up here in the Dakotas. We got winter storm warnings up into Montana. Winter weather advisories dropping down to areas of South Dakota, Southwest, North Dakota, right through the heart of Nebraska. And then we start to zoom into the highest impact areas. Lincoln, you have a winter storm warning. But Omaha, you're just hanging on to winter weather advisories for now. Manhattan, Topeka, winter storm warnings. Dodge City, just winter weather advisories. Wichita, you got a winter storm warning. Kansas City, definitely winter storm warning. You're going to get hit very hard with snow and ice. Columbia, Missouri, winter storm warning. St. Louis, you have been upgraded from a watch to a warning. Winter storm warnings up. Now, I do want to zoom into this area right here. You see this purple? That's ice storm warnings. Kind of ignore the discolor of the purple here. Both of these are ice storm warnings. So you got some alerts very close to Springfield, but as of now, nothing. No winter weather advisories, no ice storm warnings. This could change. If you're tuning in from this area, that could change. We have winter storm watches hanging on by a thread just north of the Boot Hill, Missouri. And some of these winter storm warnings are starting to get into central Illinois now. Now, Springfield, up to Bloomington, and we're starting to get into these areas in blue, all of Kentucky and this section of Ohio. These are all winter storm watches. These will upgrade to winter storm warnings, the majority of these areas, as we move into the overnight hours. By the time you wake up to tomorrow morning, a lot of these areas will be under winter storm warnings. Now, one thing I will mention is some areas, I'd watch these areas down here, will upgrade to ice storm warnings. So, yeah, and then even though you go from a winter storm watch to a winter weather advisory, the National Weather Service still considers that upgrading, okay? So some of these areas will upgrade to a winter weather advisories. Now, you still have some lingering winter weather advisories out here, and we've had some crazy snow squalls today. They're still ongoing. I mean, they have definitely overachieved with the Clipper. We've had, I would say, an overperforming northwest flow event all the way down to Asheville. We have special weather statements that will expire shortly, and we even have some burst of, we might can get some bursts of some snow over the next couple hours out here in North Carolina, and there's still just snow ongoing everywhere in these areas. I mean, heck, this is a snow squall warning. We had a snow squall warning, the first snow squall warning ever issued from the National Weather Service out of southwestern sections of Virginia. So pretty wild stuff today, just today alone, a very wintry period setting up. So now that we got that under our belt, let's keep on going. So the latest from the Euro, and I think we have the latest 18Z Euro, and hopefully it'll go out to the length. Yeah, it will. So it's going to go out through the length of this storm, so we're good. So let's start off tomorrow morning. Once again, timestamps up here. January 4, January 4. That's tomorrow, Saturday. This is getting into tomorrow morning. The pink is in the freezing rain, orange, sleet, and the blue is going to be snow. So we take it all the way to tomorrow evening. We got light freezing rain breaking out across central Kansas. This is all light to moderate snow. It'll be very cold, though, so this light snow up here will have big-time snowfall ratios because it's falling in such cold temperatures. And you keep this going. We're going all the way. Let's take it all the way to Sunday morning, January 5th. Okay? Low pressure beginning to develop and really get amped up. So southeast Kansas looks like you're getting the majority of this is rain. Same thing with southwest Missouri. That's why you guys have not upgraded to any kind of winter weather alerts for the most part. The pink, that is freezing rain. The northern sections of this is heavy snow. So I think you will mix a little bit in Kansas City. Starts out snow in St. Louis, but are you going to mix the freezing rain and sleet at some point? I think it's definitely possible. We keep this going and check it out. Any kind of frozen precipitation as far as sleet and freezing rain like Kansas City, for example, is probably going to switch to some heavy snow. This is all heavy snow back here in central to northern and northeastern areas of Kansas. It's snowing like crazy in like southeastern Nebraska. If you live in Lincoln, like Omaha, I would watch the trends with this. If it ticks a little bit north, then you can get a few more inches of snow. But you keep going, mainly rain in Arkansas and extreme southern counties in Missouri. And this is just turning into a whopper of a winter storm across areas of the southern Midwest. And then we keep this going. Heavy snow. Any kind of freezing rain could switch back into this as the snow as a lot of cold air begins to follow behind this system. And then you get thrown into the freezer behind this system. Okay, so that's the latest from the central U.S. Let's go on and switch this to the eastern U.S. This is all new data. Tomorrow, we're probably going to start to look at short-range models, okay, like the HRRR model, the HRRR model, when we're in full range of this storm. But we're starting this off now, midday Sunday. So this is in the next 2 days. Look at this stripe of heavy, wintry precipitation. And you know, it's got this starting off as freezing rain. And let's back it up a little bit. It's starting off as freezing rain around Nashville points north. And there's a little bit of a freezing rain in the forecast as far as accumulating, like a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice. Look at the Cumberland Plateau. Look at this starting off is a burst of snow in northeast Tennessee, certainly western Virginia, definitely northern Kentucky. This is new. I know I got a lot of people tuning in from eastern Tennessee. If you live in northeast Tennessee, this could definitely be a several-hour winter weather event before you probably switch to rain at some point. But you continue to go here. All that pink you saw right here begins to switch to green, which is rain. How far north does the axis of this heavy snow get? For my folks tuning in from Indianapolis, central Illinois, heck, even getting up to Columbus and Dayton, you know, you're starting to get close to whiffing. Now, I say whiffing, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything, but you might not get as high, some of those high-end totals that maybe was originally forecast. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say this again in the morning, a lot of times this moisture is always a little bit further north than what models show. So I want to leave it at that. But this is in the middle of the night, Sunday night into Monday morning. Middle of the night, Sunday night. You got an all-out ice storm ongoing in central Kentucky, the far northern counties of Kentucky's heavy snow, southern Ohio's snow. How far north does this snow get up into Indianapolis? Do you get a couple inches or do you get 6 to 12 inches of snow? Big question. It's starting to move into West Virginia. That's heavy snow in central VA. Charleston getting heavy snow at first, and then as the low pressure begins to move through, I think you'll switch to rain for eastern Tennessee, even western Virginia, eastern Kentucky, getting into southern areas of West Virginia. And this just warm nose of air aloft and at the surface begins to work in and then disrupts the cold air feed into this area. Now, getting into the mid-Atlantic, here it comes. This is Monday morning. You got a blast of heavy snow moving into the mid-Atlantic. I mean, this is going to be heavy snow. You're going to get a lot of warm air advection. The column's going to be saturated. And, I mean, you're just heavy, wet, fat snowflakes, I think, will be falling in the D.C., Baltimore area and throughout the Delmarva. And you're getting a lot of freezing rain in the southern sections of VA, like south central VA. And, you know, like Roanoke getting hit hard with this, whether it's Charlottesville. And then look at this axis of very heavy snow south of D.C. That's interesting. Okay. It's snowing like crazy in southern Delaware, the Tidewater area, getting close, like just the coastal areas of Maryland. How far north does this band of snow get up into PA? Does it get and cover up all of Pittsburgh? Big question here. And then how far north does it get? Do you get a little bit of light snow into Long Island, New York City, the northern sections of New Jersey, all the way to Binghamton, New York, maybe? You certainly could. But you continue to watch this. It's snowing like crazy. In fact, you never have, on the latest Euro, it says you're not going to have any mixing issues in the DC area. And you keep this going, and this has been the interesting thing that I've been watching. A little weak low develops on the backside of this, and this is like Monday evening. You finish this storm up, cold air's crashing down, and it catches up with this last little bit of moisture, and you start to get a wintry mix, some snow in sections of North Carolina. Look at this back end little heavy stripe of snow in VA. Certainly some snow back here in eastern Kentucky, West Virginia. This is a developing thing, and this is trending heavier. So now, for example, as this storm's moving out, see that darker blue right here? Might as well get a little bit closer to it, right? See that darker? Well, let's look at this. See that darker blue right there in the tide water? You might rain the entirety of this event, but right at the back end, little burst of snow. And this is like the middle of the night, Monday night into Tuesday morning. Look at the little bit of snow in the northern counties of North Carolina. Snow right there. Could you get a burst of snow from this? Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the system. Let's start breaking down snowfall accumulations and ice. Now we're gonna move this west to east for obvious reasons. Starts in the west, ends in the east. This is South Dakota. This is how much snow you're expecting. The latest from those folks. You know, Pierre 3 to 5, Rapid City 2 to 3, up here to Buffalo 5 to 7 inches of snow. Winter 3 to 5. Not really expecting any ice up here, but this will be a light to moderate event. But it'll be so cold that even the light snow will add up, and it'll be just high snowfall ratios. You start to get in Nebraska. I think most of central, northern, western, even like northeastern Nebraska, southwestern Nebraska is going to get anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow. You can see it here. It shows many towns and cities. Once you get to the southeastern portion of the state, down here, Lincoln 4 to 6, Omaha 2 to 3. I'd watch in Omaha. Could trend less, could trend more. It won't take much to trend more. Falls City 8 to 12. But if you live in the far southeast counties of Nebraska, you could get well over a half a foot of snow, 6 inches. Okay, now I do think some ice starts to show up here. Not much, but you add in several inches of snow and a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice, you certainly got some issues. I don't think you have to deal with much ice here. Now, when you start to get down to Kansas, that's a different story. This was upgraded a couple hours ago. And some of these graphics could upgrade again here in the coming hour or two. But this is what we got right now. Latest, Emporia, 4 to 6 inches of snow. Lawrence, 6 to 8. Topeka, looks like you guys are in, and here's kind of the range down here. It looks like Topeka, you guys are kind of in that like 6 to 8, maybe 8 to 12 range. But Salina, 8 to 12 inches of snow. Russell, 8 to 12. Greensburg, 3 to 4. Wichita, 3 to 4 inches of snow. In Dodge City, it looks like you're in that kind of that 2 to 4 inch snowfall range. Now we look at ice. This is when ice becomes a big deal, folks. And Emporia, 3 to 4 tenths of an inch of ice. Lawrence over 2 tenths of an inch of ice. I say this, anytime you get over a 1/4 inch of ice, 0.25, that's when you start to get into big time troubles with ice. You mix that with a few to several inches of snow, you got huge impact. You don't want to leave your house in something like that. That's dangerous. And you throw a little bit of sleet in here, which you'll probably be having in this type setup. You definitely have issues. Wichita going for a 1/10 to 2 tenths of an inch of ice. And just almost the entire state of Kansas could deal with some ice. So if you don't know what, say, a 1/10 of an inch of ice is compared to how much damage that could cause, a 1/10 of an inch of ice, you can see the glaze on the trees. You get to a 1/4 inch of ice, you start to get the sagging of the trees. You start to have road issues. You start to get to a 1/2 an inch of ice. That's when you start to get huge impacts, like just an all-out raging ice storm. Pretty much. You start to get the snapping of the trees, stuff like that. Now let's move into Iowa. Kind of move a little bit to the northeast. Iowa is going to be a wild state in the southern counties. Northern Iowa is probably not going to get anything out of this. Des Moines, inch or less. You drive a little bit south, down to the southern counties. I had a lot of people correct me on this name. Not going to try to pronounce it. Folks, I love it when you guys correct me. It's awesome, especially when y'all do it, obviously, respectfully. But a lot of times I'll read it, and then I'll get to the video, and then I totally brain fart how to pronounce it. So that town down there, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Crescent, 2 to 3. Just the further south you get into the counties. The far southern bordering counties of Missouri and Iowa could get upwards to 8 inches of snow. It just depends on how it sets up. Not expecting much ice in Iowa, so no point really bringing it up. But Missouri, latest graphic, and I do want to see if there's another graphic up because they're probably updating Missouri like or not. And that's the same one. So latest from Missouri, big state. It's going to get highly impacted by this. Kirksville, 6 to 12 inches of snow. Moberly, 7 to 11. All right, that's a gas station. Columbia, 6 to 10 inches of snow. Kansas City, 7 to 12. St. Joseph, 8 to 12 inches of snow. That's some pretty big wide ranges in this, right? Springfield, they're actually going for 1 to 2 inches of snow out of this. And I think a lot of this will fall on the back end. But, St. Louis, they got St. Louis in here, 6 to 9 inches of snow. Hillsboro, a little south, 4 to 7. So, yeah, Jefferson City, 4 to 8 inches of snow. Hopefully you guys are actually watching the video and you can certainly see the graphic, because I don't have the time to mention every single name, but the icing is going to be a huge concern with this too. Just south of the heaviest snow, you're starting to get some purple showing up. Here's the graphic up here. When you start to get the purple showing up, that's over 3/4 of an inch of ice. So when you start to get that kind of ice, that's starting to get into catastrophic ice totals. You're getting the snapping of many trees, falling on stuff, falling on power lines. When you get over even 1/4 to 1/2 inch, that's power outages. And this area in blue, that is where the corridor of your ice storm is going to be. And it is going to be down. It doesn't take much. Like Poplar Bluff, only going for a few 1/100ths of an inch of ice. You go up to Centerville, a raging ice storm. 6/10 of an inch of ice is forecast. Kansas City to St. Louis, a little over 1/10 of an inch of ice mixed with maybe 1/2 foot of snow. That is going to cause major issues. Remember, anything over 1/2 inch of ice or 1/4 inch of ice is a serious deal here. Okay. Now, what about Illinois? 1 to 4 inches of snow in Chicago. A lot of this is some lake effect action. Hopefully you can see this pretty small. I know this is a little scrawny on your screen, but unfortunately I can't make it much bigger than what it is. But hopefully it comes up clear. But Springfield, 6 to 12 inches of snow. Bloomington could get 2, could get 7. Peoria, you might get 1 inch, or you might get 1/2 foot of snow. Quincy, 6 to 12 inches of snow. Mount Vernon, 3 to 5. Marion, 1 to 4. Champaign, 4 to 9. So, there's some pretty wild ranges. You go up to Rockford, you're probably not going to see much at all. Dubuque, probably nothing. And same thing, guys. You look at the ice with this right here. The extreme southern sections of the state of Illinois is going to get an ice storm. And it could be a significant ice storm. Mount Vernon going over 1/4 inch. But you get on down to Marion, over 1/2 inch of ice is forecast. Paducah, over 3/10 of an inch of ice. And so the southern counties, southern portions of Illinois, ice storm, no doubt, with a little bit of snow. So we head on over to Indiana. Now I know this is a little kind of muffled on your screen, but Indianapolis, that's 5 to 11 inches of snow that's still forecast. But I'm telling you, I think that if models continue to be south, I'm not going to say you heard it here first, but if I'm in Indianapolis, I would say this. And I probably got people tuning in from this area. I know I got one loyal viewer that tunes in. I would not bank on the high end of that. I would bank on the low end of it, and then if it overachieves, then hey, nice, pleasant surprise if you're a snow fan. Bloomington, 6 to 11. Columbus, 6 to 11. Madison, 6 to 9. Salem, 6 to 10. Jasper, 4 to 7. You head on down to Evansville, 3 to 4. And once again, it's the same thing. And we can take probably another look at this, actually. Just a little bit more of a zoomed-in look. This is what they're showing here. Show some other towns and cities. Pause the screen if you need to. We'll jump back off this, and we'll look at ice totals. And this is what it's showing down here. Evansville, a couple inches of snow with 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice. That is a significant winter storm when you're mixing those different winter weather precipitations together. Madison, 1/10 to 1/4 inch of ice. And but Indianapolis itself, hey, not going for really any ice, so that's good. But the southern sections of the state going to get ice. All right, head on over to Ohio, and this runs us from, this was just updated too, this runs us from to 7 p.m. Monday. Could still be getting a little bit of snow at this point. Cincinnati going for 7 inches. Dayton, 7 inches. Columbus going for about 5. Then I believe it begins to really cut off once you get north. Cleveland, 6 inches. Some of this is lake effect action. Parkersburg, 8 inches of snow. Jackson, 9 inches. And we'll talk about Kentucky here in a second, but it already shows Charleston going for 5 inches of snow, Morgantown, 7, Pittsburgh, 4. But anyways, majority of this is for Ohio. And then once again, we will look at ice, a little bit of ice in the southern counties of Ohio, maybe as high end as maybe 1 to 2 tenths of an inch of ice, which is certainly going to cause issues when you mix it with the snow. Now, we get down to Kentucky, okay? Covington, 6 to 10 inches of snow. Frankfort, 5 to 8. Lexington, 4 to 6. Louisville, 4 to 7. Ashland, 5 to 8 inches of snow. Moorhead, 4 to 7. Jackson, 2 to 4. So a hefty snowstorm in the northern sections of the state. Now, the icing is going to be pretty bad in Kentucky. It could be one of the most high impacted states as far as ice. Now, we saw some really high totals in Missouri too, but I think Kentucky overall could take the cake with the worst icing. Lexington going for a few to several inches of snow, and then you mix that with a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain. Elizabethtown, same thing. Louisville, 1/4 to a ½ inch of ice. Covington, a little bit less, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch of ice. Jackson, 1/4 to a ½ inch of freezing rain. Bowling Green, look how much they've increased the ice totals here. 1/4 to a ½ inch of ice. That's a pretty big change. Paducah, 1/10 to a 1/4 inch of ice. Owensboro, I mean, if you live in this darker shade of red, that's potentially getting up to 3/4 of an inch of ice. And that is, I hate to use this word, but it really is. It's catastrophic ice total. It's going to cause a lot of damage and widespread power outages. This storm is a big one, folks. So you head on down to eastern Tennessee. Unfortunately, the National Weather Service out of Nashville does not really have a great graphic up right now. Morristown does a great job, but the ice totals are increasing for eastern Tennessee, folks. I mean, areas of the Cumberland Plateau right into here could get a 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. Knoxville itself could get a few 1/100 of an inch of ice, maybe a little bit in Gatlinburg. Morristown over 1/10 of an inch of ice. Kingsport maybe around 1/10 of an inch. Was it Tazewell? I mean, maybe up to a 1/4 inch of ice. And up here in the Tri-Cities areas, folks, I mean, could get a little bit of icing. So definitely expect a little bit of a glaze out there, especially right at the beginning of this storm. You know, as far as snowfall in this area, they're not going for much, but I definitely think that you could get a little bit of snow, especially Mountain City going for about 1 inch, especially in the far northeast county of Tennessee. You definitely can get a little bit of snow out of this. West Virginia, zooming into my folks here, Charleston around 5 inches, Logan 3, Beckley 3, Lewisburg 2, Snowshoe 14 inches of snow. This is between now and Monday night. Elkins 9, Morgantown 7, Petersburg 6, Cumberland, Maryland. I think Cumberland's in Maryland. Correct me if I'm wrong. 7 inches of snow. Wheeling 5, Martin 7. So hefty snow event in these areas. How much ice? Ice totals quite significant. Lewisburg going for over 3/10 of an inch of ice. Charleston 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. And mix that with a few inches of snow, maybe 5 inches of snow. Huge deal. This is going to be a high impact storm. Look at all the icing. Not as crazy as your neighbor in Kentucky, but this is still going to be issues. Not as much in northern Kentucky. And then you look at PA. Stop the screen if you need to. What's wild to me is, hey, Pittsburgh, maybe 2, maybe 7 inches of snow. Uniontown, 5 to 10. Johnstown, 6 to 11. State College, you could 6 inches or less. That's what they're saying. Harrisburg, same thing. You could get 6 inches or less of snow. I've actually never seen that before. Gettysburg, 2 to 7. Reading, 5 inches or less. Allenton, 4 inches or less. Scranton, inch or less of snow. It just really starts to drop off up here. Pretty wild stuff. Philadelphia, 6 inches or less. This will be a big one for you folks. And, maybe a little bit of ice in this area. We'll show you the ice forecast. Nah, not really much of anything forecasted. And then we start to get into the D.C. area, the Mid-Atlantic. Check this out, folks. And this was issued just about an hour or so ago. Snowfall totals have really increased for the central sections of Virginia. Charlottesville, 2 to 5 inches of snow now. I mean, Fredericksburg, 2 to 5 inches of snow now forecasted. Washington, D.C., 4 to 7. Baltimore, 2 to 6. Bel Air, 2 to 7. Elton, 2 to 6. Easton, 4 to 7. Salisbury, 2 to 5. Leesburg, 4 to 8. Winchester, 4 to 8. Hagerstown, 3 to 8. This is a big one. Oakland, 9 to 12 inches of snow. Richmond now, getting into this, like 2 inches or less. So, this is going to be your biggest winter storm in a few years in this area. And we will look at ice too. And definitely going to get some ice, especially once you get down to Charlottesville. You start to get down to these areas in kind of central VA, 1/10 to a a 1/4 inch of ice is possible with this. I'm trying to find a better ice graphic here for this area, and there's really not. I'm going to have to, yeah, so we'll have to figure that one out. But anyways, definitely a high impact storm. And yeah, here we go. So this is the National Weather Service out of the Roanoke area. I think it's Blacksburg, actually. Charlottesville, 3 inches of snow. Lynchburg, about an inch of snow with this. Lexington, 2 inches. Blacksburg, inch or less. It could get a little bit more out these areas, so we'll just have to pay attention. It's the icing that looks pretty bad for this area. Okay. Lynchburg, and a tenth to 2/10 of an inch of ice. Blacksburg, I mean, you could get over 3/10 of an inch of ice. Wytheville, a 1/4 inch. But check out some of the ice now being forecasted in the northern counties in North Carolina. Mount Airy getting close to 2/10 of an inch of ice now. Boone, about a tenth of an inch or more. So we're definitely getting some hefty ice totals in this area. And one kind of area that I don't have really up is this area here in Southeast VA, and I need to show you, but I'll be able to do it here. So I know I didn't show New Jersey. They didn't have a graphic up for New Jersey, but southern New Jersey and the Delaware, you guys could get about 6 to 8 inches of snow. Here it is. You can see it right here. New York City around an inch, Long Island about an inch, but this could shift north. Just watch out for northern trends. Southern New England, this just does not look like your storm. That could change. But freezing rain, there it is. Latest freezing rain now going for a couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice in the northern counties of North Carolina. And then look, I mean, even in like southeastern portions of VA, 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. I mean, so it shifted a little bit south over the last 24 hours. So, whew, information overload, right? But just trying to get specific with you guys and help you out. But definitely a high impact winter storm. So let's switch to the threat of winter weather for the South next week. Let's talk about the latest GFS run and how, I would say, let's start off with this. The runs today were underwhelming. They were sad panda. They stunk if you're a winter weather fan for the South. And then the GFS came in this afternoon and throwed a different route to get winter weather in the South into the picture. And we're going to speak on this as we go. So the latest GFS for the South Central U.S., it comes down, has some snow, New Mexico, Colorado, Panhandle of Oklahoma, and Texas as we're getting into Wednesday. Here it is. If you're wondering about the time frame, Wednesday. Not a big deal. In fact, it totally whiffs Texas on this run. Doesn't do anything after throwing a big winter storm for this area multiple times. And then it finally gets some moisture, starts to break out, just good old-fashioned rain for Texas. No winter weather this run. As moisture, lack of cold air, breaks out some snow Friday morning across Arkansas, northern Mississippi. We'll talk about areas further to the east here in a second. But that's all she wrote. The energy gets squashed down here in the southwest, and you're not able to get any moisture. This is a tough one to figure out, folks. GFS says after several runs in a row, pulls the rug out from under you. But it's not over. Latest European, and this only goes out 140 hours out, so just remember that. But it is starting to get in range. We start to get into late Tuesday night, next week, the 7th into the 8th. Light snow breaking out. Already looks snowier, right? Snow breaking out across the panhandle of Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, southern Arkansas. No, not southern Arkansas, southern Colorado. And then we go all the way to 144 hours out, and it already shows something different. It has a storm breaking loose, and we have a winter weather event breaking loose for the northern half of Texas and starting to move into Oklahoma. So it already looks a little bit different here. You compare this to what the GFS is showing at the same time frame. Yeah, so a lot different, right? Definitely different. But as far as just lack of precipitation. Now we'll switch it, and we have to just go back to the 12Z run. Look at this. Nothing. Bang, there's winter weather. So we're just getting wild swings. But I will continue to look at the rest of the Euro. Here it is, finally develops some sort of snowstorm across central to western Texas. This very well could be a little bit of snow right here in the green. But then the energy just gets flat out, quite literally squashed. And then that Baja low finally ejects across the southern plains, but it's just a big raging rainstorm. So what about the good old Canadian? I'll show you this just to show it. Canadian model, here it comes. Drops that energy down to the southern plains, and then it breaks out that light to moderate snow across central and southern Texas. So it continues to show that snowier scenario. It's also bringing down some northern stream here. That's something interesting to watch. But that's freezing rain falling Thursday morning across the Gulf coastline in the pink. And not a big event, but definitely an unusual event, I would say. So what about the signal here? So this is the latest blend of all models for the entirety of this time frame, I would say. There is a signal for snow, especially in western Texas. Drops off once you start to get into central to eastern Texas. Oklahoma, a little bit of a signal, but not much. The icing signal from this, just scattered. It's not much. But you start to look at the Euro ensemble, okay? And, you know, from the 12Z, for example, it supports a snow signal. For example, it's the Euro ensemble combines about 50 runs together and creates an average. So the average snowfall mean is about an inch and a half in central Texas. And you got about an inch snowfall mean in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that's something to watch. And are we in range yet of the 18Z? No, it's just starting to get in the range. So we're not yet. Okay. Now let's keep it at 240. Now let's look at the latest GFS ensemble, which is still running. Okay, so we'll keep it in the same frame. Let's just keep it from here till Monday morning. Okay, it has a signal right here of snow in the same area. It really likes kind of central Texas. I mean, and there's a signal all around it too. And unfortunately, these ensemble guidance, you know, it doesn't really show an ice signal, but there's a signal for winter weather. That's what I would take from that. We've been showing usually these same graphics over and over again. There's still a signal for winter weather in Texas, which is the south, and getting into Louisiana next week. So I want you guys to remember that when you look at my thumbnails and I say winter weather chances for the south. The south is a pretty broad term. Okay, from Texas to the Carolinas. Pretty broad term, right? So I still think winter weather is going to happen for the South next week. It's just, who is it going to happen for? Is it going to happen for everybody or just a couple states? Big question. Now, let's head on over to the Southeast. I know for my South Central Southern Plains folks, that was underwhelming, right? Things can change fast, though. Fast. All right, so the latest GFS. Start off Thursday morning, January the 9th. Same thing, time frames up here, over here. JAN 9, January 9th. Check it out. As we're moving forward here, watch what happens. We get into Friday morning, January the 10th, about a week from now. We got light snow breaking out across Arkansas, northern Mississippi. I mean, you got snow all the way up here in Kentucky, the Ohio Valley. Not a big event. Snow breaking out across North Carolina. And then look, snow heavy falling, you know, in areas of Alabama. The moderate areas, like moderate snow, the darker shade of blue. Look at the snow falling in Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh. It's not heavy, but it's there. And then it gets heavy as low pressure develops here, and you get this moderate band of snow from Georgia all the way into the eastern Carolinas. I mean, you're like, bang, voila. Okay, it's not a big event, but there's an event, and then it heads on out. Now, I want to back this up. I want to look at the 12Z. What did the 12Z GFS show? 12Z GFS has a super amped up system and drops a major winter storm across Tennessee, getting into Kentucky, across an ice storm in northern sections of Georgia. It drops a winter storm across the northern sections of South Carolina. It drops just a winter storm across North Carolina. It drops a snowstorm across the mid-Atlantic. That is a massive difference. But for my areas for deep in the south, like the I-20 corridor, you got warm temperature issues with this. It's overamped, basically. Okay, now what about the latest Euro? Now, we're not in the range of the 18Z, but the latest Euro we're getting the Thursday morning, we're getting the Friday morning. Here comes the precipitation we need to work into this time frame, but it gets squashed. We have a little snow breaking out in northern Louisiana, and then we get deeper into the weekend, and finally energy ejects, but we lose our warm air. It gets overamped. And this is a huge rain bomb for everybody in the southeast. And heck, if that would almost be a severe weather threat for the deep south. Now, you know, I will show you the Canadian run. This is what it looks like. It keeps freezing rain all the way for the Gulf coastline. And there's energy in the northern stream right here, and you got southern stream energy here. So there's plenty of cold air on the Canadian model, but there's no connection. In fact, you got a little bit of snow shower activity Friday morning across the Carolinas. So there's energy there. It just doesn't connect. And the latest Euro AI model kind of does that too. It separates the energy once again. So as far as the snowfall signal from this, it's extremely low. There's not much going on here. Icing signal, Not much going on either. But you look at the latest Euro ensemble guidance, you can see that there's a signal for something. And I can't wait till this gets out of the way. We're done with this storm. It'll stop cluttering up the screen. But there's still a signal for these areas right in here. And a little bit north in Tennessee also. Okay, but the thing is a lot of these members are just whiffs because of cold and dry. Some of them are whiffs because it's a little overamped. But you look at the latest, say, GFS ensemble, and I hadn't even seen this yet, so this will be new to me. And it's not, it's about the same. It really is. I mean, you can see that there's some hits in some of the I-20 corridor kind of cities like Birmingham to, I don't know, Atlanta to, for example, Columbia and Charlotte has the same snowfall mean in this. So, if I was to take the time, and I might as well take the time, might as well do it. So this is it. This goes all the way out to about Monday evening. So if I was to take the time to, I keep saying that because I am, to look at the winter weather panels, let's see what they look like. And these are going to be very hard to see on your screen, folks. Very hard. Because it's so small. But this is what I'm talking about with an ensemble. So the GFS, it has 30 different members, and all these members come together to create an average or a mean. So this is Friday morning, and you're going to have to put on your bifocals to see this. But you can see that I'm going to draw on this. This is, let's take it all the way till about Friday. Okay, we stop it here. Let's go one more. Let's stop it right there. So this is around Friday. All right, so this is how this works. This one is a miss. Panel 1's a miss. Panel 2, you got a little bit of a light snow event for, you can tell there's plenty of cold air. It's snowing in areas of South Carolina and Georgia. This is panel 6, actually, so we're going down. Panel 2 is a hit. It's a winter storm. Panel 3, miss. Okay? So, hit, miss, miss, miss. Small hit, miss, 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 miss. It's a hit, but it's a little bit amped up. So this will be a winter storm for, say, Tennessee. This looks like an incoming light winter weather event. It's just a little bit late. We got a big winter weather event on P13 for like the Deep South, and this could continue to move forward here. So I would say that's a hit. Now miss, 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 miss. Hit, hit, miss, miss, miss. Somewhat of a hit. This looks like it's going to be a hit. This is a hit, miss. So you got a lot of misses in there. You got a lot of light events in there. And if you kind of keep going, like keep this going here, like panel 22 turns into a big winter storm for the Carolinas and North Georgia. And we got a light event for P12. We got a rain event for the Carolinas in this one and this one. So you can see there's a bunch of different scenarios that develop with this. And for example, the one that kind of starts off in the Deep South, it looks like you got a big winter storm coming, kind of phases, kind of gets fizzled out. So that's what I mean by this ensemble guidance, guys. So what makes the latest GFS do what it does? Or what makes it create such a significant shift on the latest run? So we've been yapping like crazy about this energy right here. Okay, this is going to be our low, or kind of our upper low that gets jammed and turns into like a Baja low and gets shoved down here in the southwest. And this keeps doing it because of improper ridge placement. This ridge is kind of flexing this way, and this is shoving this energy. This energy is a big piece of the puzzle, as if we really want a major winter storm, we need this to eject at a favorable time period this way. Okay? We need this to move this way at a better time period and then clash with a lot of cold air. But it's becoming apparent that that's not going to happen. So on the GFS, it totally whiffs the Baja low. This energy down here. It does not bring it down. We continue to have a lot of energy screaming down from the northern stream. So what happens instead, you get this piece of energy that begins to race down. Okay, this is pinched off. It's just chilling over here doing its thing. So in this case, we get this energy right here that kind of dives down. And yes, some of the energy off this upper low does get pinched off into this. So you can see it kind of flaring out right here. There's like a moisture feed right here, just kind of splotches of color. Some of it's getting pinched off into this positively tilted energy that's moving down here. But regardless, this becomes northern stream dominated, which I've mentioned a couple times is a way to score in this setup. But a lot of times you're not going to get a big system out of this setup, hence what the GFS showed. And sure enough, this cutoff low or upper level low never breaks loose, and this turns into a purely northern stream dominant system. And as sloppy and as crappy as this looks, it actually works. And we just saw what it showed on the GFS. It works in the form of snow all the way to the coastal areas of the Carolinas in the southeast. Now, if something like this was to happen, what happens with this is you don't get a board-wide southern event. This probably would only impact a certain area. But it's an interesting scenario. The Euro, what does it do with its miss is it does dig this upper level low down here, and it kind of squashes it. And yes, we do have some northern stream energy right here that swings down. It's a little bit earlier, but it's too tilted positively. So there's no tilt to really get this going and strengthen this system. And then this just turns into just a spinning ding dong down here. It really just doesn't know what it wants to do. And we continue to get a lot of energy kind of funneling down. Like here it is. We're getting this energy kind of coming down right into here. But it's coming down too far to the east. It's just not going to cut it, not going to tilt correctly, not going to give us any precipitation in the southeast. And this kind of Baja low, which I'm increasingly not liking, finally ejects and just turns into a rainstorm across this area. Okay? So, a lot of pieces to the puzzle out here, and this is very hard to explain. And honestly, I'm learning off this too. I think that this is an opportunity for a lot of people to learn, including myself, on this incredibly just unknown setup next week. So, hope that made sense. If it don't, we'll try it again in the next videos. I do want to wrap this video off by giving you guys the latest 3 to 4 week outlook. This takes us from the 16th to the 31st of January, clear through the rest of January. The good news is, if this does not work out next week, I know there's going to be a lot of irritated, pissed off people. I'm just going to say it. If any kids are watching, I do apologize. But there's going to be a lot of mad people. Okay. And I know it's coming. I'm already prepared for it mentally. But the pattern continues to look pretty good. So the 3 to 4 week outlook, they're already saying a 55% chance of temperatures being below normal in basically the second half of January. This is a 50% chance. You mix that with the precipitation outlook, folks, and it's really for the eastern U.S. To me, you see this shade right here, 55% chance of precipitation being above normal, 50% chance. And you look at this, to me, that tells me that once we get deeper into January, we're going to start to favor more of these systems that are going to ride up the coastline. So if you're bummed out in southern New England, for example, because I've had a couple people, what about the Northeast? I think the opportunity comes later in this pattern. So I think we have more opportunities down the road if next week does not pan out. I do. This is an unusual winter. A lot of people were screaming La Nina. They were screaming well above average winter. This is going to be a terrible winter in the east. And look here. We got a major winter storm about to cross areas of the country. We have a favorable pattern setting up next week. It was a cold December. It's a cold start to January. I mean, what else could you ask for if you're a winter weather fan? Except we just got to start connecting the dots. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful start to your weekend.